Hello, welcome everybody to episode 7 of the AI Advantage Show. I'm your host, Colin Piscopo, and this is Kim Reynolds. And we're
Hi.
here to help equip marketers and professionals like you with the insights and connections you need to gain the competitive advantage using artificial intelligence. Today's episode will be unpacking some of the latest AI trends and discussing how you can use AI to help more people get to your website with a little thing called SEO. Kim, who do we have helping us out with that today?
Well, today we have Calan Breckon, and he is an SEO specialist. He is definitely the man you want to talk to about SEO, especially AI-assisted SEO. He teaches entrepreneurs and business owners basically the fundamentals of running a successful online business using search engine optimization tactics like blogging, podcasting, and now he uses AI assistance to even, do that better.
Awesome. Very cool. Before we talk to Caitlin, we want to talk a little bit about the AI Advantage Agency, which Kim and I are both a part of. We co-founded this a couple months ago, and we help marketers learn how to use AI to grow their businesses and leverage their marketing. To get 50 times the output. So if you're interested in getting 50 times the output on your work, definitely come check us out. And if you're a business that's looking for an agency to help out using AI and leveraging that to help you get ahead of your competition, go ahead and check out the AI Advantage Agency. And if you're interested in some of the tools, go ahead and check out AIadvantageagency.com/magi. That's where we use a lot of our generative AI. Great tool there. So thank you, Calan. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show today.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're very interested to know kind of what tools you use and just how you're leveraging AI and assisting in SEO. But just to get everybody kind of on the, on the same playing field, so to speak. What is SEO? Why is it important? And just so we all kind of understand what's going on with that.
Yeah, I love that you're starting off with this because I was going to say, let's start off with like the
Yeah.
basics of like, what is SEO? So SEO is search engine
Sure.
optimization. And basically what it is you want to make sure that you're the number one thing that is popping up on Google when somebody searches your niche or whatever you're doing online. You want your website to be number one. And the best way to explain it to people is I go, okay, search engine optimization is a long-term strategy. We're talking months and years. It takes a long time to really build it up in your business and on your online presence. And you can think of it as if you're dating Google. And Google is like, they're going to date you for a long time before they're even going to hold hands with you because they need to know, like, and trust you before they're recommending you as an option in their search options. So the way that you can do this is things like putting out blog posts about your niche topic and like covering everything you could talk about inside of that niche topic. You could also put out podcasting episodes, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on and how to do that specifically. But putting out content out there in the form of like textual context for Google to understand, because it's a robot, right? It's AI. It goes through and it crawls everything. The more text you have on your website talking about your specific thing, the more Google is going to know who you are. And the more you show up on a regular basis, it's going to learn to trust you as well. So it'll start sending traffic your way. And another really great way to build your SEO as well is to also have links coming back to your website from other people. You can think of this as like, referring a friend. This website says, hey, this is a really great website. You should trust them. And so the more of those you get, the better it is. And of course, there's all these rankings and all this other stuff that goes on and does get complex, but that's kind of the basics of what Google and SEO is it's optimizing your website so that Google puts you as the number one thing anytime somebody looks up your niche.
That was awesome. Wow. That was like such a, I'm sure
Excellent.
yeah, it was such a succinct but thorough explanation. And I'm sure you're obviously an expert. You've done this many times, but man, that seems like a lot, first of all. And I love the metaphor of a relationship. And just to, we could probably have a lot of fun with that. But let's say the people, and we get this a lot with clients, right? They want results right away. They kind of want a one night stand. Okay. They maybe want to buy a drink and skip to the third date, maybe, or whatever. So, Hey, I don't do that on the third. Some people do it on the third date. So what about them? People are like, hey, I need this traffic right now.
Yeah.
I need that SEO right now. Is that even possible, or is this just simply a long-term strategy?
With SEO, not possible. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I hate to break it to you, but we got to go old school. You got to go on the dates. You got to build it up. You got to build that anticipation. And anything in life worth building or doing is going to take a long time to do. You do
Mhm.
not come out of the womb crawling. You come out being a blob. You have to learn how to crawl. Then you have to learn how to
Yep.
walk. Then you can learn how to run. But you can't just go straight to running. There is a process in life, and people need to recognize and respect that that process exists for a reason, because every overnight success took like 10 years to get there, right?
Right.
So you
Right.
have to put in the time if you really want something to be successful. Now, there are ways, of course, that you can kind of skip the line, but you have to be able to afford it. And that is, kind of your marketing that I think you two do. There's like the advertising based marketing.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
that is like, if you can pay for that, fantastic. Like, you're gonna have to pay for SEO as well. But the long-term effects of SEO building is you're building your website and your authority inside of that website, and that is an asset you get to own. And so if you own your website, you own that asset. You are building into that asset. Every blog post you put out, all those hundreds if not thousands of blog articles and content that you put on your website, is building the strength behind that website. That is something that you can then take and sell later on. Whereas if you want to get fast, you can go and advertise, and you definitely should spend in advertising as well. That's an important aspect of it. But if there's nothing to send people to, and you haven't built that inside of a website, all you're going to do is continue to spend money on ads again and again and again. And if you want to get off that hamster wheel eventually and have Google recommending you for free, you have to invest in your search engine optimization.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, I have a
Yeah.
question for you. So, with Google's new search generative experience, they put those AI results at the top, and so people don't necessarily have to go to your website to get the answers.
Yeah.
How is that going to impact SEO?
Yeah. Great
So
question.
I have not dug deep into that yet, because they're still trialing that. A lot of
Yeah.
people still don't have that when it even pops up. And they're going to show you the content that is going to be best for your experience. So, yes, there's going to be like those quick answerable things that are going to pop up. But for the most part, if somebody actually genuinely wants to learn about a topic, they're going to still click through and go to that page, because they're like, I want the full breadth of what's actually happening here. It's not like, how many ounces are in a cup. Like, that's
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that's going to pop up
Okay.
to the top. But if you
Mhm.
really want like the good juicy stuff, they're still going to go to websites. And one of the best way that I'm future proofing people is teaching them how to use their podcasts for their search engine optimization, because inside of Google, they're continuously looking for the best experience, and they're continuously looking for real people, especially with AI and the invention of AI. And I do use tools to create blog posts and stuff like that with AI, but it's not going to ever, I mean, maybe not in the next decade, it might get there for sure, but the nuance of actual human content and the context between two people is vastly different. And so when you can capture that inside of a blog post, and I use AI to do that, you can get the conversation, and then Google looks at that and goes, oh, this is real people. This isn't a way a robot would talk. This is how real people would talk. And then Google is more inclined to push that out there to say, oh, hey, these are real people. If you want to listen to a podcast, you want to listen to this, you should go over here. And that's going to eventually, I think my opinion is that kind of content is eventually going to start to lift to the surface, because more people want that human touch.
Yeah.
That,
No,
that's
I agree.
really, yeah, that's really interesting. And there's been a lot of people that have expressed fear over what's going to happen with Google search. And first of all, that they're still going to find a way to insert their ads. So,
Oh, yes.
but what I love what you said is basically for those like one and done quickies, answers like what time is it or what's the weather like and blah, blah, blah. Those are the kind of inquiries that are going to get you business anyway.
Right.
So when it comes to the questions that really need in-depth and experienced answers, they're still going to refer people to websites. And that's why content's going to probably be even more important to put out quality content.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more like those quick kind of questions where, you're asking like, you're cooking a recipe and you just Google like something and it gives you that quick response, right? That's what we're talking about rather than, you're looking at like, hey, I need the top 10 SEO strategies. Well, you're probably not getting that. It's probably going to go to a blog. Maybe it's going to go to your blog post, probably going to go to your
Yeah.
blog post, right? That's what, so, and that's what you would need. And then maybe to take it, I mean, I have a ton of questions about that. But maybe to take it even a step further, what about people who are using generative AI as their search? How is that going to have an impact on SEO? Because I'm guessing, I mean, I know Kim, that's what you do, right? You're not going to Google anymore.
Almost
You're
100%. I'm in
right.
Bard or ChatGPT, Magi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't done too much work or around this specifically, but I do know that there's still a lot of hallucination problems with AI. So if
Yeah.
you're strictly using ChatGPT and asking a question, you don't know if that's actually going to respond with correct information. Like the hallucinations, and they're finding it's kind of getting a little bit worse because it's now just like repeating upon itself and learning from itself,
It
and then
is.
it's perpetuating the falseness of that information. And so
Yeah.
even when I use generative AI like ChatGPT, I've used it to write blog articles or assisted in writing blog articles, I still go through and I have to humanize it because I need to put the context out there. And human language, we just speak very differently. And then also checking the information to make sure that information is actually
Yeah.
correct, because the worst thing you could do is be just like blindly generating articles and putting it out there and having false information on there, because that on a brand perspective, just from that alone, is very dangerous waters. And I won't be trusting that at least for a number of years to get to the point where I trust it, but I will still always be making sure that there is editing going on, humanization of it, the nuance, how things are laid out. Like I personally won't be trusting any AI to just give me the correct information right off the bat anytime soon. So I hope that answers that question.
No, it
No, that
does.
does.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
does.
I'm always amazed by what I'm like, oh, really? And they're like, oh, it just totally made up a company and made up a stat. And it's really
Oh,
funny.
yeah.
And it sounds convincing, it's like when someone would be like, hey, well, 90% of this, you're like, I need the source on that. Cause that sounds like a lot. That doesn't, I'm not sure I believe that, and it's kind of like that sometimes. I like how you call them hallucinations. It is, it's like a friend. It's hallucinating, have delusions and giving you all this information.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
so I'd love to know a little bit more about how you're like kind of what AI tools you're using. And, I know obviously you said you're using generative AI for blog articles, but is there anything AI specific or tool specific that you're using for SEO?
Yeah, actually. So there's a number of things that I'm using. So specifically for SEO and blog writing, I use a tool called Surfer SEO. It's a really great tool that kind of takes everything that Google has and the top positions, and it goes through all that data and it pulls it over and it goes, okay, here's a ranking from 0 to 100. These are all the things you need to mention inside of the article. This is how many times you need to mention those things. And then they also have introduced their AI generative models so that you can just generate it for a set price for each article, and then it spits out an article. And for the most part, I'd say 100% over ChatGPT, Surfer SEO, because it's designed specifically for this reason. The article that it spits out is pretty good to start off with, and it'll usually rank you quite high, so that if you post that article, chances are it's going to rank somewhere on Google because you're hitting all those spots that Google wants you to hit. Again, though, I still go in and I still edit the crap out of it,
Yeah.
and make sure that it is what I want it to be. It's in my voice. It's how I'm speaking, and that I add in things all the time because it's like, well, AI wouldn't have known about this nuanced thing that I know about, and I'm going to add a whole section in on that. So it's more just like, it really helps the writer's block, and like getting over the blank page syndrome of like, how do I start this? Where do I go? And it's just like, oh, okay, cool. I have the skeleton. Let's just like do that. So I do that quite often. And that really, really helps. By the end of it, it's mostly my writing, but it's just giving me that skeleton. So that's Surfer SEO. which is great. People can check out calanbreckon.com/surfer SEO if they want to find out about that tool. And then I use Harpa. I don't know if you've heard about this one, but there's a tool called Harpa, and it's a free plugin on, I use Chrome. And so I use that for my podcasting specifically. So I have a podcast on my website, and then I also upload those videos onto YouTube because I, double up that content. And when it's on YouTube, what you can do is you can go into Harpa and you can do /YouTube, and it'll spit out a synopsis of all the information. And so I usually do like the shortened version, and I'm like, give me the 10 key points of this article, and it'll spit out the 10 key points in that article. It will summarize them in one sentence, and it'll also timestamp them. So I no longer have to go in and timestamp my own videos. It's done for me. And that also helps search engine optimize those videos because it's putting in those chapters automatically. I just take that, copy it, paste it, put it into the video description. People now have the timestamps. They know where they can find everything. And it has a really good little summary, 1-sentence summary of that section. I can then use that over inside of the blog post that I put up for the podcast episode as well, so that even though it's not exactly timestamped like YouTube does, people can still see that information is there. And then the last tool that I really use for AI is Castos, which is the hosting platform I use to host my podcast, even though it's routed through my website for search engine optimization reasons, which I can get into if you're curious.
We are.
But so I hosted on Castos, and what they have is they just introduced free transcription. Before you had to pay for it. It was very nominal cost, like a couple bucks, maybe an episode. But now it's for free. And so I take those transcripts and I download them, and then I edit them a little bit because it's like they don't have names. They just have speaker 1, speaker A, B, that kind of a thing. So I edit that really quickly just in a Word document. And then I take those, copy those, and I put them over onto the blog post in just a transcript drop down option. Because again, Google is going to read that text information, even though it's not in a blog, a perfectly laid out blog article. That information is still going to be important as to what is on that page, what that episode is about. And so that's an AI tool, and it got even better. They've just upgraded it, and it got even more efficient, more better. It doesn't print my name wrong anymore because they added the option where you can add like most used things. So those are kind of the 3 big tools that I use. I use Surfer SEO, Harpa for just my quick YouTube transcripts, and then Castos for their transcription and podcast hosting.
Great. Yeah, I know you have a question, Kim.
Yeah.
And then if I know you talked about Surfer SEO, is the link calanbreckon.com/SEO? Is that what you said?
Surfer SEO.
Oh, it is Surfer SEO.
Yeah,
okay.
Surfer SEO. Yeah, and that'll take you. I like make it easy for people to get to places.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'm just going to go and check out your website for like 5 days straight and figure out how you do all this stuff and make it look nice. And because that is so fascinating to me, because we don't do that. And we're clearly missing out on some important SEO juice by not doing that.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big
I
time.
could dive into that big time. I'm such a nerd when it comes
Go
to
for
that
it.
kind
Go
of
for
stuff.
it. Explain us how this works with
I think,
I'm sure everyone's fascinated. I can't wait to hear.
Wants to know. Yeah.
Okay, so it was kind of a happy accident that I discovered podcasting for SEO because I built this other business and company in podcast. They're getting over 50,000 downloads a month now, and it's been, I think, just over 2 years in a very small niche market. And so I had routed that originally through the website because I knew, I was like, well, I want to have us own, because there's 3 things you can own. You can own your website domain, you can own your email list, and you can own your RSS feed for your podcast. That is property you can own, but only if you're routing it through your own website. So my podcast is like calanbreckon.com/podcast/ RSS feed, and it has all that. And I specifically chose Castos because they do that with the Seriously Simple Podcasting plugin for WordPress, which is really great. So you go to your WordPress and you upload as if it was a regular blog post It does some of the fancy schmancy work of making sure that the episode can actually get played on your website. But basically, it's almost as if you're just putting out a blog post. And so what I do is I've templatized creating everything. So I have one that's just a template, and then I just copy paste everything for new episodes, which really speeds things up when you're putting everything together. But what happens when it gets routed through is that anytime somebody's going to be linking back to an episode or linking back to your podcast, all of those links are going to go to your website instead of the podcasting platform's website, which is really important for people to understand, because people are like, oh, well, I have a podcast, it's great and all this stuff. They don't realize that those companies are actually kind of taking advantage of you, because they're not giving you all the benefit of that search engine optimization juice. They're taking it for themselves. So yeah, your podcast might rank, and yeah, your podcast might do well, but they're taking all of that for their website. It's boosting their website's SEO. But when you route it through your website, you get all the beneficial SEO juice. So you're getting all of those links from all those high domain rating websites like Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, like all these different places are going to be routing, eventually linking back to your website. And then when you have guests on your podcast, you can also get them to send a link back to your website. So, hey, this is your episode. Would be really great if you could link to it from your website somewhere, or send it out into your newsletter. Make sure that they do that, so that all that traffic goes back to your website. These are all signals that tell Google, hey, this is a trustworthy website. People are really liking it. They're linking to it. They're getting a ton of traffic going to it on a regular basis. Consistency is king. So I always put out an episode each week. So making sure that you're following that, so that you can build that consistency into your system. But when you do all of this, all of that SEO juice is going to come back to you. And again, like I said, I put together a basic, outline, links, all that kind of stuff, sponsors of the show. And then at the bottom, I have just an accordion drop down, and that's where I post that transcript, which has like the bulk of the text context to it. And bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to go. But this is really important for if people want to build their websites. Like, you can build your website domain very quickly. And, I just checked the old business. And I think their domain rating is at 37, and they've done no SEO work specifically. All it is routing the podcast through your website. Imagine if you're also working on your search engine optimization, you're also putting out blog posts, you're also doing all these other things to benefit. You're going to start ranking really high in Google and getting all of that. And the discoverability of your podcast is going to be exponentially higher, because Google's ranking you inside of itself, as opposed to just being floating over here on some podcasting platform. And so that's why the podcast became so popular, is because it kept coming up in search, because it was a very niche topic. And all of a sudden, all the search traffic's coming to them for free through Google, because of just one simple thing I did, which was setting it up through going through a website.
Yeah.
Wow. That's mind blowing. Now, this may be a dumb question, but I'll ask it. So that's for podcasting. What about for like live shows like this?
I've actually never done live shows. So it'd be difficult, because every system is different the way you set it up. I have a specific way I set it up going through Castos. And so you could still definitely utilize the juice, even though you're not hosting it on a website like your website or anything like that. Maybe that's one thing you could look into, is hosting it on your website, but you could still put together blog posts as if it's a blog post. And then having, inserting, if there's a YouTube video for it, making sure that's in there, putting together a little blog post of like, this is what's the episode is all about. And then getting those transcripts in a drop down. Even though it's not necessarily routing through your website, you're still capturing that text and all that information, at least on a page on your website, and you can build from there. And another important aspect of SEO is, internal linking. So making sure that oh, this matches this and this matches that. And there's little links kind of going to other things, so that Google can crawl through that and understand, okay, this means this means that, this is linking together. We're getting a better understanding of what your website actually is, which is why it takes so long to do SEO, because Google takes a long time to do that. And it just takes a long time for your bulk of content to get big enough so that Google understands truly who you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's really cool.
That's amazing. And, that's a really brilliant idea about putting the transcript in an accordion, because then because transcripts don't always look all that pretty. So that, you still remain with the aesthetic that you like, but
Sure.
all that content is in the back end of the page that Google reads.
Yeah.
And so that's brilliant.
100%. Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to have
Yeah.
to rewatch this whole episode because there's already so much that I've learned. This is
Well,
awesome.
I'm really excited because, one of the things we're going to do with this show is not everyone's going to watch live, and we take the audio and we're going to make a podcast, right? So I think we're going to wait. We're on 7 episodes. I think we're going to wait till like 10 or something. So we had just
Right.
a few done, but this is definitely what we're going to do. I mean, we will absolutely go through Castos and do this. And one of the things I talk about all the time with people is not being reliant on it, trying not to be as like reliant on these third party platforms, and I
Yeah.
always tell is like, well, I'll see people who kind of get big on a platform, like let's say like, even some of these Twitch streamers and stuff, they have such a following and such an influence, their audience will follow them. Now that doesn't mean that you don't simulcast, or I said, why haven't they started their own platform? Like, just as a marketer, I'm like, why don't you own it? Like, you are big enough now where, you were there for like findability. You don't need, like, people have found you. They will follow
Yeah.
you. And you've seen this with, I think, what's his name, Dr. Destructoid or something, or Dr. Disrespect. Oh my gosh, I'm getting his name. He could go wherever he wants. Okay. He could stream, from anywhere. People would follow him. And that's what he did. But I just haven't seen other people do that. And so this is a way to go, hey, instead of just like sending people to Spotify or sending people to this third party platform, which they can do whatever they want with your content.
Right.
Nobody's really reading these long agreements that they're agreeing to. And you are beholden to their rules, right? If you're relying on Facebook for something, you're relying on a social media platform. So I just agree with that whole concept in general is like, hey, if you can own it, bring it to an own site, which is your own website, that is just gold. So I love that. That's just a whole part of your strategy because I think
Oh,
it's brilliant.
huge. I hate social media, like with a passion. Like I don't love it. I go on it, I look at things, but it's like a brain drain. And like if you're
Sure.
building up on Instagram or wherever you're building up, if they decide, oh, you broke the rules, they just kick
Yeah.
you off. I've seen it
That's right.
before with influencers, and it's just
Oh,
like this
yeah.
one guy just lost his account. He had like hundreds of thousands, and I'm like, well, there goes your revenue stream.
Yeah.
Had
If
you
you were
been
relying on that.
building Yeah, had you been building your email list in the background, even just, hey, go to the link in my email list, go sign up for the newsletter, whatever it is, even starting off small will make such a huge difference down the road. Because if they kick you off, you have a way to contact those people and say, hey, I've been
Right.
booted off, go here and help me get it back, or go do
Yep.
this. You can insert affiliate links into your email list. And email lists are having a resurgence and a renaissance. I actually did an episode about
Yeah.
this with Charlie Marie from ConvertKit. She was on my podcast, and we talked about how
Awesome.
my email list grew by 12,000% in 7 days. And so, we talked about how like emails coming back in a big way because people are sick and tired of being bombarded with ads and all these things that platforms are doing to monetize. And you're just like, I just want to hear the information I want to hear from a reputable
Just
source
want to
that I
follow the
like.
person I want to follow, get news from like the updates from them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, social media, it's great to kind of get your stuff out there and invest in order to be seen, and especially
Yes.
quickly. But in regards to like building it all on social media, like no, you need to have things that you own. This is how people get rich. They own things, and that's your website, your email list, and your RSS feed.
Yeah. And we've talked about this even just with us with like community building, right? So we're like, hey, we want to build this AI community. And they're like, man, there's these groups that get big. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what? That thing's on LinkedIn or that thing's on Facebook. And I said, that's one of the reasons we build a prompt exchange is, it is because we want to have it owned on our website. We want to be able to like have a place where we can kind of cultivate that community ourselves and not just worry about, hey, a rule change or something happens on a third party platform, and then just like we kind of lose control of all that. And that's just so valuable, I think, for any business to realize. So yeah, so that's why we started that, and it's growing right now. It's just prompts. It's like 2,000 AI marketing prompts, and you can kind of give a prompt, take a prompt, but eventually want to really grow a community there that kind of just fosters growth and knowledge around using AI tools for marketing. So
Definitely. The only place I will say that is good for growing a community is YouTube, specifically because they are search engine optimized. So it is a search engine, And because of that, then like growing a community on there is different. Like people are commenting and all of that. But that's the one place that I'd say if you're going to foster a community, is do it on YouTube, because it's still a good space for you to be, because you're putting out the content. But the search engine optimization of it, you can always direct people back to your website or get people to join your email list, link below, all that kind of stuff. That's the one kind of social media platform that I do think is a great investment if you're going to choose one.
And Google is biased in, ranking those videos, right, in search. So that does help as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So who do you use for your email hosting? Are you with ConvertKit?
I'm with ConvertKit. Yeah.
So are we.
I'm a very visual person. And so when I made the transition over, I used to be with MailChimp. I went over to ConvertKit, and it was just such a better experience because you can see the visualizations of how you actually map everything out.
Right.
So that really helps me kind of understand, okay, this email goes out at this time, then it's this many days, then it goes out at this time, and yada, yada, yada. And I just love them. They've always been super great to me. And like I said, I just interviewed the creative director from ConvertKit, and they're super lovely. If people want, they can go to calanbreckon.com/podcast. And they can find the episode in the list of podcasts there.
Nice.
Very cool. Definitely will check that out for sure. Yeah, I mean, if you want it, I know we're getting a little bit, but if this is too off topic, just stop and we'll transition. But I want to hear about this. I hear 12,000% growth, and I'm like, heck yes. And we've even talked to clients who are like, oh, email doesn't work for us. And I'm like, that's because we haven't got your email working for you yet. And I was just like, don't neglect this. So can we just maybe talk a little bit about the email renaissance you mentioned and that stellar growth? I'm sure our listeners would love to know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So ConvertKit actually bought a company. They were partnered with a company, but then they ended up buying it, and it's called SparkLoop. And so SparkLoop is they help. What did they do exactly? So it's like on SparkLoop, everybody's on there. They all have email lists. They all have these big email lists. You can say, hey, I'm willing to pay you $1 for each email you refer to me. And instead of paying Facebook, I'm paying another creator who's in the same niche as me, and it'll help grow my email list. And so maybe I'll get like 700 referrals from this one email list because, the content overlaps. And then I agree to pay $1. But you can also have agreements where it's like, okay, but that person has to be on my email list for over 30 days, and they have to at least open one email in the last 2 weeks of that 30 days in order for them to be a qualified lead. So even though 700 joined, maybe only 300 of them end up staying by the end of that 1 month period. You only pay for the 300 that stayed, not the full 700 that joined your email list.
Wow.
And so it's just one of the best ways that I found where it's like, I'm not throwing spaghetti at the wall to get engaged emails. I'm actually getting people who are engaged. They're opening emails. My open rate is still about 50%. My click-through rate is still about 6%, which is quite high for industry standards. And I kind of have it set so that it's like they're kind of trickling in all the time. That was when it first started. It kind of was a huge blast. I was like, oh my goodness. But now I kind of just leave it at a certain state so that it's, people are trickling in every day. But SparkLoop is definitely one of the best ways to grow your email without spending a ton of money, and to make sure that's very well spent. I'm not spending a bunch of money on advertising and maybe hopefully getting a lead, and maybe hopefully they stay on my email list. I'm paying for people who are staying on my email list, engaging with it, and I don't have to pay for all the fluff. So they got bought by ConvertKit, and ConvertKit, if you are on their ConvertKit Pro platform, then it is included in their options. You can set it all up. It's part of the new creator network that they've set up where you can refer and all that. And so you just go over there, you set all your stuff up on SparkLoop, you get to sit down with them for a meeting to help set up a couple last things. And then there you go, you're ready in the system, and you can start growing and building from there. I recommend it to everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I've seen these, and Kim and I have talked about them, because there's a couple of different options for this type of thing. And essentially it's, other email lists are going to have a referral, right, to join your list, and then they get a little kickback for that. And it's kind of like there's also some that are just share with friends and stuff like that, and they get I think that person gets a kickback. I'm not sure how that one works. There's lots of different setups for them. I've always been a little skeptical of these because I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not sure about that. And I was kind of old school, but we're seeing diminishing returns on kind of old school. And old school is Facebook is usually like a lead generator machine, right? And that can be a big part of your funnel there. But there's diminishing returns there as well, and you don't want to rely obviously on just one source for your leads. You want to diversify, right? Diversify, just like Wu-Tang Financial, if you get that reference. But can you explain a little bit about the qualifications, and maybe specifically I think you might have mentioned it. I don't know if those are the qualifications you use for like what counts as a qualified lead, because that's what I would be worried about.
Right.
One, am I just like getting referred and it's going to be I don't need a bunch of junk. I don't pay for followers. I don't want to pay for a list. It's almost like list buying to me.
Yeah.
So can you explain how these are qualified leads and how you'd actually want to do this? And I know we're going a little bit down, we're digging
No,
down
that's fine.
into
It's all
but
in the marketing kind of like umbrella
it is.
anyways. So specifically, I have mine set so that it's Canadians, Canadian, US, UK, and Australia. I only accept emails from those places because you could get email lists from countries that aren't going to be relevant to you, or they're not obviously going to buy from you or anything like that. So I make sure that I set those up. I also made sure that the window for payment, or the engagement window, was 30 days. So I think their default is like 14, but you can talk to them and ask them to extend it. So I said 30 days because you really need at least 30 days for somebody to be on your email list to know whether they're going to go cold or not. And then that they have to engage at least with one email and have one click in the last 14 days of that 30 days. So maybe they've opened the first 1 or 2 emails, but then they drop off. Well, then they've not engaged in the last 2 weeks. And I think that that's a fair time frame to make sure that everything is all ready to go. And with that, you also can put in and say, hey, my email list is about, business, marketing, and entrepreneurship. So make sure that if you're going to be recommending me, that's who you need to be aligned with. Like, you need to have crossover inside of that world. And you can say, this is who I am, put a little blurb. The other person gets to read that and go, oh, this is a good match or not a good match. And then there's a matching system where I can either approve or deny whether somebody gets to recommend me. And so I can see what's their email list, what's their reputation. I can do a bit of my research first and go, okay, I'm going to accept you because I think that we align really well. And then it also makes me feel good knowing that this is another entrepreneur, this is another kind of creator who I'm going to be supporting with my business because I'm paying them. I'm not paying a big business. And vice versa. They could do the same for me. They could either recommend mine and I could recommend theirs, So it's like an old school kind of referring a friend of a friend. And you're always going to trust a friend of a friend more than you're going to trust like a random Facebook ad or something like that, right? So it brings it back old school. Of course, there's always going to be a couple like junk emails, but that's why you have the parameters set so that for the most part, you can kind of funnel out a lot of those people. And even if these people aren't going to be necessarily like buying people up front, they're going to be on your email list. The more they engage, the more they get to know, like, and trust you. And that really is, at the end of the day, you buy from people you know, like, and trust. So over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years, eventually they might get to that place where they're buying from you. But you could still be utilizing it in the meantime because you can have affiliate links that go through your email, making sure that you're letting people know that it's affiliate links at the bottom and whatever you got to do there. But having affiliate links, so even though they're not buying from you specifically, maybe they buy a product that you recommended, or a service, or a SaaS, software as a service kind of a thing. And so, perfect example, I'm an affiliate for ConvertKit because I use it and it's great. If I refer people, they go through my link, well, then I'm going to get 30% of their monthly bill every month because I brought that sale to ConvertKit. So you can use your email list to do that kind of a thing as well.
Yeah, very cool. I think we need to have you back on and talk about email strategy.
Just email, yeah.
I mean, I think this is really gold for people, especially because I think it is kind of newer. You see some people utilizing it, and I know they're not utilizing it to the degree you are. So this is really great information for everyone.
Awesome.
I have a question. With the Spark Loop, can you set are you able to set say, okay, this month I'm willing to spend $500? Can you set cutoffs? Because if you get an influx of 10,000, that's great, but then you have $10,000.
Yeah. I think the minimum is $2,000.
Oh,
and
okay.
so there is a minimum, but the parameters you set will help limit that. So it's like, yes, the $2,000 per month limit might be there, but if you're paying $5 a lead, well, there's a high chance people are going to be recommending your email list because they want that high payout. Whereas
Right.
if you do a lower one, like maybe $1, it's not going to be as popular. So
Yeah.
you can also go in there and turn it off and on and like pause it. Like mine's paused right now because it had a huge influx. I was like, whoa, okay, let's just kind of like
Yeah.
take this back for a minute, or like things are a little bit tighter. You can just put it on pause and then wait and then turn it off and on as you please in that regard. I mean, maybe people recommending you might it might impact that, but as long as you don't do it too often, then it shouldn't impact it too much, because it does send out emails saying, hey, this person paused their campaign or this, that, and the other, so that they know to stop kind of referring you.
Wow.
Yeah, they've set up a really good system.
That's
Wow,
great.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to jump into that. I can't.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm doing
absolutely.
today.
Yeah, go to calanbreckon.com/sparkloop.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will definitely look at that. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have you back on and talk about this specifically. You know, and even if there's kind of, I'm sure there's kind of AI tools we can use. But yeah, if you have a lead time with something like that before you're kind of getting conversions and stuff like that. And again, you said your metrics are still good, your open rates are good, your click throughs good. So I'm sure revenue's there. Whatever your customer acquisition cost is, you kind of can work within that and then scale accordingly, right? Once those are
Definitely.
becoming
Wow.
customers.
Definitely.
Just to get back to the SEO a little bit, can we talk about, now you did talk about kind of like how to write SEO content using AI. Um, and we did talk about this a little bit, but there is this fear that like AI is going to, well, one, take over the world, which we know is going to happen. It's just a tool. But then also that like, hey, this is going to replace content writers. This is going to replace SEO writers. What would you have to say to somebody that's like, hey, I think just AI is going to replace SEO writers. You're out of a job.
I think it definitely will, but I don't think SEO is going to replace those people. I think somebody who knows how to use SEO or
Right.
well and knows how to use ChatGPT well or AI well is going to replace you. So it's not just the AI, it's somebody who knows how to use that better than you. And like the mediocre people are just going to fall off. So if you're just mediocre or below mediocre at what you do and you're just kind of like, meh, whatever, you're the people who should be worried about getting replaced. If you are a good content writer, like you can write engaging, good content that people like to read, and you then learn how to utilize AI, it's just going to amplify what you can do as opposed to be a detriment or replace you. So it kind of depends on the individual and where they land in that camp. Like I will use AI to write the outline and kind of be like, okay, here's the keyword I want to rank for, write out, topics and subtopics specific to this for this search topic, write out that outline, and then it'll spit out an outline. Now you could also get it to generate kind of the article in and of itself. But then that, you have to edit a bunch and yada yada. I like the outline because then I can go in and go, okay, cool. Now I have a roadmap, and then
Right.
I'll write in all the content. But that's just me. Other people like to write out the whole thing and then they just edit the articles as they go, which will definitely speed things up for sure. But I still like to have that human touch, especially with clients. You never know what Google's going to do down the road. And for right now, human content still does really well, and you can read the difference between an AI article and an actual human article. There's just a way we speak that you will be able to hear coming through those words, and that's also what people follow. It's like in your newsletter, you have to have a personality. Big brands that just have news articles that are like, here's our stuff, they don't have the engagement that small people like I do have, because people aren't necessarily following the brand, they're following the individual and the story. And that's what we connect with as human beings. We connect with people, we connect with story. And so that's what I make sure that I put into my news articles. That's what I make sure I put into my newsletters as well, is that my personality's in there. I swear, I'm sassy, I do all the things I want because this is my news article and I can do whatever the F I want, right?
Right.
Right.
And if you want to have that success, people need to be able to connect with you as a human being, and that's what they're going to follow. Business is a secondary to what you're passionate about and what you're excited about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, I actually can't let Kim write the newsletter because it'll be like a sailor wrote it. And it's obviously kidding, but no, you're right. There is a style, and I will say, like, I can get AI to write with like 100% human authenticity. Like if you put it through the but like you said, that really doesn't matter. And even if it's like we've got personas that write in style, you still have to go in and do some tweaks.
Yeah.
And I would say for certain things, even like newsletter and stuff like that, there's just something about writing it yourself and having it, because I look at it as like a personal communication between like a friend,
Mhm.
and that's how it should come off, as being kind of this authentic, kind of experience. And I can use what we've developed as a brand persona for the AI Advantage Agency and all of the things that go into that. I mean, we could go through the list of like the, types of tone and all that stuff. But I can take that as like a base, and I can try to write having those things in mind, infusing those into my own personal style of writing. And that way it's still authentic and personal, but I'm also still on brand, right? Because a lot of
Right.
times people aren't even sure what their brand voice is. If you ask them, they'd like kind of give you like you might say, well, a little sassy, a little like you can describe it, but like we could go through and it's like very detailed explanation of kind of what we are going for. And I might
Mhm.
not be able to do that. The AI is going to do its best job, but you always have to either, like you said, start with the outline and then fill in, or write the whole thing, go back in and make some tweaks and things like that. Or
Yeah.
sometimes it's just taking the framework that I know exists and then trying to write within that context. I think is also maybe a third option you could add onto that.
Yeah. And it's also important for people to know that it takes a while for you to develop your brand voice. Like it's
Yeah.
a trial and error thing that you're not going to get right away. And so many people are afraid of like screwing it up or doing something wrong. When you do the work to get to know yourself and just be confident in who you are, that comes out on the outside. And when you're not trying to worry about the other person and how they're going to respond, like, oh, are people going to unsubscribe or do this or whatever? That's not what you should be worrying about. You should do you, because the right people will then be drawn to you. But people are always afraid of like, oh, I need to get the most out there. I need to portray myself in a certain way. But
Right.
humans, we can smell BS from a mile away. When somebody's BSing and like I'm prim and proper and everything's perfect, we know that there's muddy water somewhere there.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We like the
Right.
mess. Why do you think reality TV does so well?
Yeah. I'd say be transparent, right? I would say be transparent, be authentic. Those are the brands that win for sure. People are buying from people; they're not buying from websites and automation. So that personal touch is really what's important, and story
Yeah,
is the other thing that you said, which is very critical. We're like wired to send and receive messages through story, and that's
100%.
really really important to understand as a marketer.
Yeah, like people follow Richard Branson, they don't follow Virgin. Like
Hmm.
Richard
Yeah.
Branson's personal Instagram has like what, millions of followers, and then Virgin has like a couple 100,000. Like people follow people, not brands. You can be
Right.
attached to brands, but they are following you and your human story. That's what people want.
Yeah. Very well said.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just blown away by everything. There's so many different ideas that I want to jump
Yeah,
on now and
I know.
just wow.
Yeah, dropping like gold in this. This has just been
Ooh,
phenomenal.
ooh, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, I know we're kind of reaching the end here, but what do you say is kind of like on the horizon for 2024 with SEO, and especially with using these kind of AI tools? What do you kind of see looming, or opportunities that are coming up here as we wrap up 2023?
I think people are going to start getting a better grasp and understanding of it. I think we're still very in the infant, like it's going to be in the infancy for at least a number of like the next 5 to 10 years. But I think exponentially it will get faster and faster and be used more in so many aspects of our lives. Like we're going to be able to automate so many things that are just so cumbersome and boring that a human really doesn't need to be doing, that AI can really do easily and also sometimes often quite much better. I think in 2024, I think it's just going to kind of progress the way it is now. It's being utilized in terms that we can understand and like, oh, this is a easy application of it. And I think in the next 5 years is when we're going to start seeing it and be like, oh, I never even thought of using it like that. Or I never even thought of, oh, calanbreckon.com/spark loop. I just saw you put the link on there. And so Yeah, I think that that's kind of where I see it going. I think it's definitely going to take over a large portion of our world. Like, I think AI is definitely going to be the revolutionary thing that, like, the last time we had something like this was the invention of the internet of its, like, in and of itself. And so I think AI is going to be kind of like that next evolution. And I think instead of being afraid of it, people just need to learn and engage with it, because we're only afraid of the things we don't know or don't understand and that we choose not to engage with. That's why there's so much hate and other stuff in the world, is people are taught a certain way and then they're like, nope, this is it. That's that. And they don't actually go out of their way to like learn and engage and do their own work around it. So I just encourage people to like just test the waters, do the work around it, figure out how it might be able to work for you or how you can utilize it or leverage it. There's so many ways that are constantly being invented, at least right now. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And every time something new comes out, I'm going to try and see how I can implement it into my business and life, because I think that it's the great diversifier. And like, if you can learn how to utilize it in your life and in your business, then it is making your life so much easier, and it can diversify so many things in the world and kind of rebalance things out, that a person who didn't know how to code or who wanted to build a website can easily do it with using some sort of an AI, whereas before that never used to be possible. So I hope more of that starts happening, and we can kind of revitalize and rebalance out what's going on in the world.
Very, very awesome. I love your philosophy on that, and I think it's very inspirational, and it's a great point for what people can be focusing on. And I think it would make things a lot better, make the world a better place if everybody embrace that a little bit more. So very cool.
Well, you've given us so much to.
Yeah,
I mean, I have been writing
yeah,
notes and like to
yeah,
do lists, and my to do list is like this. How do I prioritize that out of all of
yeah.
these amazing things that you've let us know that we need to be doing? What would you say is the number one thing we should focus on first?
There's so many.
I
Well,
can
what I would
go.
say is that I use Asana and account like my calendar to plan everything out, and I just kind of follow everything as if like it's just, this is this day, this is that day. Creating that habit is a great way of following through on actually doing all those things on your to-do list, and spacing it out so that's not overwhelming. That changed my life. Atomic Habits by James Clear. That book
Hmm.
changed my life. But I would say probably starting off with finding things out about your website, kind of getting an SEO expert to go in there and be like, okay, this is how fast it is. This is what's going on. This is your map that's currently there. This is how many links you have. Doing kind of like a quick audit on your website to find out where you're falling short or what you can do. And then the next part would be, how are you putting content on your website, and are you following a consistent schedule on that? Are you posting once a week? Are you putting out 2 blog articles a week? Are you putting out a blog article and a podcast episode and using the transcripts inside of there? So probably looking at setting up a schedule and staying consistent to that schedule, and then layering on the next piece. So maybe you start with articles, blog articles, and then the next piece is layering on the podcast once that gets going, and making sure that it's done appropriately, making sure that it's laid out correctly, that you're getting the transcripts and putting them in there, and kind of building on that into the future to make sure that you're getting all that link juice and all that kind of stuff back to your website. So those are probably the best places that you can start.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
that's
that.
nice
Very
and strategy.
organized.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually used my AI personal assistant to help me get, because I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is a giant list, and I'll be like, here's all the things I gotta do. They're like, wow, it's actually like a version of Ada, which is our AI avatar. She's like, wow, that's a lot, Colin. All right, let's break this down into some small chunks, but it really does help. And to your point, it sounds like the word that keeps recurring in my mind is consistency with your SEO strategy, with your work habits, and maybe that's kind of the base of Atomic Habits, just building up that consistency each day, so that way you're kind of always chipping away at it. And before you know, you've like made some big strides towards that.
Definitely. It's little tiny steps each day that compound over time that equal big things down the road. But everybody's always looking for instantaneous and right now. And if you're not willing to be patient or to learn how to be patient or to hire somebody to be patient for you, then you're just going to be spinning your wheels constantly. You can't, sometimes you have to slow down in order to speed up. And this is definitely one of those instances. If you want to win the SEO game, you need to put in the time and energy and dedicate to it and know that you're investing for 5 years down the road. You're not investing for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners. And, I always like to bring things into like jujitsu, because that's kind of like it. There's a way in jujitsu you kind of learn, or a way in martial arts, and you can start to see it applying to everything. And this is one of those things where people will be like, well, how do I like do things that people have done this for 10 years do? And it's like, you got to do your 10 years. Like, it's just not possible, because it's just too deep, right? And this is a deep, long game. Marketing is a deep, long game. Building a business is a deep, long game. I think it's important for people to understand that it's the slow, steady, it's the tortoise and the hare. It's that consistent work. And if you're chasing the shiny object and running around doing that, it's just not going to get you there. So
no, exactly. Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of in that boat ourselves right now. We started this agency and these different tools that we give people for free, and knowing that it was going to be a long run, that we have to just, even if there's not a lot of people watching the show yet, keep doing it. Do it every week at the same time.
Exactly.
And if there's not a lot of people reading the blog posts, keep putting them out. And eventually, all of the hard work will come to fruition.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how I started that first podcast. We had nobody, nothing at the beginning, and now it's 50,000 downloads a month. So
that's amazing. Congratulations.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I was going to say, if people are looking for a website audit, I'm offering free website audits for at least the next month or two. They can go to calanbreckon.com/audit, and I'll do a quick audit on their website and just give them a couple of tips as to like what they can do or where they want to start off with.
Excellent.
So
That's a great offer.
That was calanbreckon.com/audit.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get the links right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Before. I know, I'm throwing them out here like crazy.
No, that's good. It's great. This is really helpful. Yeah, I mean, so if that's the best place to find you, do you want to give us anything else? Maybe where people can find your podcast, where people can follow you, learn about more. Obviously, I would definitely go we're getting that free audit for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. Yeah. Give me a show, guys. So calanbreckon.com/audit, and then just calanbreckon.com. It'll have all the stuff there. There'll be a button up at the top right. You can request an audit. And then the podcast is also listed on the homepage. So that's pretty easy to find. If you want to join the newsletter, you can go to calanbreckon.com/news. And I send out newsletters every Wednesday, whether that's a podcast episode or some tidbit of information, tips, tricks, that kind of a thing. So yeah, that's the places you can find me and all this stuff.
Wow.
Very cool. Very,
Such
very
great
cool.
information.
I know you're a podcaster, but I think you're awesome. You've got some of the best hair I've ever seen. So I think you should do more video. I'm just saying,
I do.
Okay,
I have video. I got my YouTube. They can find that on my webpage as well. Because
Yeah.
I YouTube my podcast as well. So it's double up. I mean, if you're going to make the content once, you might as well put it everywhere.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. We
That's
definitely
true.
believe in repurposing. Well, Calan, it's been a pleasure. I've learned so much. I definitely would love to have you back on. Thank you so much for being here. It's been really helpful.
Definitely. It's been awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks so much, Kim and Colin. This has been fantastic. I love talking about this stuff. I love educating people and helping people. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
definitely.
welcome.
Definitely. Talk to you soon. Wow. That was, I'm definitely rewatching this.
My brain is like,
incredible.
woo.
I know. It's like tingling right now. I'm like, all right, I gotta drink some coffee and go through the list. So very, very cool. A lot of like truth bombs and great insights.
Oh yeah. I mean, seriously, I made a long list of all the things and all the things. I'm gonna rewatch this episode so that I can, make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, very cool. Our AI avatar Ada is actually out sick today. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's what she.
It's a virus.
Yeah, she got a virus. But I will say there is just a little bit of an update that we know that Meta has been releasing some new AI advancements. So they've released an AI chat right now into their messenger. So you can go check that out. You can actually build in your own virtual assistant. I've built in I have a built-in AI virtual assistant. Highly recommend this. So I would go check it out. And you can chat with other celebrities. They have got a lot of AI versions of celebrities, which I'm assuming they've endorsed, because we know Tom Hanks isn't cool with that, but maybe some of the other ones are. But there's a lot of other features. And if you want to request early access to that, just go to your messenger and you type @ and then you'll see Meta AI pop up. And then that's where you can make that request. So just go to your messenger, type the @ symbol, and then Meta AI should pop up. It should auto populate, and then you can make that request and go ahead and check that out. Have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We will see you same time, same place next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.